I'm sorry? You start out questions first, and then it's like Alice in Wonderland. Questions first, and then the substance. Listen, I want to start out by once again thanking both Lieutenant Governor Patrick and Speaker Burrows for their remarkable leadership, their vision, their execution, the way they've been able to get things done this session, especially as it concerns doing even more to keep Texas the best business climate in the entire country. Also want to thank people who are at the table with us here today, which includes Jim Lee, who is the CEO of the new Texas Stock Exchange, and Glenn Hammer, who is the head of the Texas Association of Business. Behind me is a long list of some of the most prominent business leaders and people who are activists in this area, including people inside the state, outside the state. One person we have from outside the state with us to show you how important this moment is. We have the CEO from the Intercontinental Exchange with us here today. To set this up in a way, this week happens to be Economic Development Week in the state of Texas. Today we're about to put a punctuation point on that important week. Texas is widely recognized across the country, candidly across the world, as the #1 state in the country for doing business. Texas ranks #1 for the most new jobs. CEOs have ranked Texas as the best state for doing business for 21 years in a row. Texas is ranked as having the best business climate in the United States. And Texas has won the national championship for economic development for 13 years in a row. The national championship trophies adorn the wall on that side of the room that's blocked by my staff right now. I'll tell you this. There's a difference between becoming a champion and repeating as national champion year after year. To remain at the highest level requires constant innovation and improvement. And that's what we constantly work on to keep Texas the #1 best business climate. For example, last session we passed business courts in the state of Texas that provide a greater predictability for those involved in the business arena. This session I'm about to sign 3 laws that solidify our status as the best state for doing business for many years to come. Laws that will make Texas the unrivaled epicenter for business headquarters. The first involves Senate Bill 29. What it does is it codifies what's called the business judgment rule. This law provides business decision makers the certainty that sound business judgments made in the best interest of shareholders will not be second-guessed by courts. Absent things like acts of crime, business decisions are to be made by the elected officers and their shareholders, not by unelected judges. Senate Bill 29 also eliminates rogue shareholders with just a handful of shares of stock in a company from being able to hold a company hostage from the ability to make sound business decisions. The next bill I'll sign is Senate Bill 1058. It will cement Texas as a premier location for stock exchanges. Senate Bill 1058 will exempt stock exchanges operating in Texas, like the NASDAQ, New York Stock Exchange, and our very own Texas Stock Exchange, from certain franchise tax liabilities. Last, and tied into all this, is the extension of our collective disdain in Texas for any type of tax. We dislike it so much that we made the income tax unconstitutional. We made a wealth tax unconstitutional. We made a real estate transaction tax unconstitutional. This session we are making a capital gains tax unconstitutional. To help you understand the real-world application of what that means, in effect, in the lifetime of everybody in this room, there's never going to be any of those taxes in the state of Texas because it would require 2/3 vote to get it passed, and that's not happening in the lifetime of anybody here. But it's applicable today because we add today to those House Joint Resolution 4, making unconstitutional a stock exchange transactions tax and occupation tax. This also has the additional benefit of protecting retirement accounts from transactions taxes. As I pointed out, Texas has long been known as the best state for doing business. We are now fast becoming the best state in America for stock exchanges. I'll pass it to Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick.
Thank you, Governor. I want to thank Senators Parker and Hughes standing behind me and their work on these bills and our entire Senate team. Senate Bill 29 is so straightforward, and it was important. It was an important piece of making the Texas Stock Exchange come into reality. All these bills are kind of tied into that. And Jim Lee and Glenn and Jim is one of the original thinkers on this, and he'll speak in a few moments. But I just want you to think about this for a second. 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 20 years ago, if you had said one day Texas will have its own stock exchange, and people would have said, well, what do you mean? How's that going to happen? It's because in Texas we are big and we are bold, and we take on great challenges, and we're doing a lot of that this session. And I'll let him give you the date, but before you know it, you all will be able to buy stock on the Texas Stock Exchange. And everyone, everywhere will. So I just think it's a great day. When I think of Texas, I was a kid, I saw the movie Giant. I grew up, I said, man, they do things big in Texas. And here we are. I think that movie was made in 1955. Here we are in 2025, and we're doing things bigger and better than ever. It's all Texas. It's all great all the time.
Great. Now, Speaker Burrows.
Look, I first want to say I'm very excited about where we are in landing a very historic, optimistic session. Working with the governor and lieutenant governor, and especially the members of the House and Senate, we continue to do big things, and today is one of those that we're acknowledging. Texas is fantastic. We are business-oriented. The business of Texas is business. People are moving here for that. But always the most dangerous thing about that is complacency. If we do not sit there and think forward about what we can do to continue to attract and retain new businesses and get them coming here, we will no longer be where we need to be. These bills today, in my opinion, will make Texas the most competitive state for stock exchange and bringing big business here to Texas. I am very proud of the work that the House and the Senate and the governor have done to get these across the finish line, and I think this is a historic day for what is to come.
And Mr. Speaker, just before I walked up here, we passed House Bill 9 already, which is one of the biggest tax cuts for small business, taking the personal property from $2,500 to $125,000. So it's not just big business on the stock exchange; it's the small businesses that makes our engine go to.
Very important. Thank you. And now, Jim Lee, CEO of the Texas Stock Exchange.
From day one, Governor, you've made Texas an economic powerhouse. This legislation will incentivize even more businesses now to move their registrations, perhaps move their listings, and ultimately to move their headquarters to Texas. It also lays the foundation for exchange operators to make meaningful investments in the state of Texas while providing greater access to our public markets. With the bills you're signing today and the others we've championed together this session, you are cementing Texas as the capital markets leader for generations. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Speaker. And thank you, Governor.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you for doing your part.
Thank you, sir.
And now Glenn Hammer, head of the Texas Association of Business.
Well, Governor, it's an honor to be here during Economic Development Week, and I want to first start recognizing you as the undisputed, unified champion of job creation in the United States of America. No governor does it better than you, and I want to thank the Lieutenant Governor and the Speaker for all of your leadership to keep Texas on top. This is the trifecta. These bills that are being signed today will absolutely keep Texas as the best place in the nation for jobs and to invest. And we should be proud as Texans that today we have more finance jobs than the state of New York. And this constitutional amendment is extremely important because my birth state, New York, which, by the way, when I was born, and it was less than 100 years ago, Texas had 60% of the population of New York. Now we're 31 million and growing, and New York on its best day is 19.5 million. But this constitutional amendment is super important, and the reason why is that New York, as we speak, now they've suspended it, they have a tax on stock transactions. So this will mean Texas will never have a tax. And on the business court side, I love saying Dexit. The fact that we're going to have the business judgment rule codified means that it's only a matter of time before we leave Delaware in the dust when it comes to reincorporations and incorporations. And in closing, Governor, it's an honor to be in the best place in the world, maybe I would say the galaxy, for job creation on this festive day. Thank you.
Thank you. Now let me do the signing. With these laws, Texas is the reigning and undisputed national champion for doing business in the United States of America. Be happy to take a few questions.
Governor, I understand that, a lot of this is trying to attract businesses away from places like Delaware and all that. For the average person who really doesn't understand and thinking that, we just gave the keys away to big corporation, why should the average person care?
Because what's important to the average person is to have a job to be able to go to work, a good paying job to go to work, a variety of economic opportunity, a thriving economy. It's business leaders, CEOs, who make those decisions about what location they're going to be in to be able to start a business and grow a business. And this is important for entrepreneurs who are going to start a business themselves. But all you have to do is compare and contrast Texas with New York or California. Texas is seeing rapid both population growth as well as business growth. There are businesses fleeing California every single day, businesses fleeing New York every single day. You have employees in California and New York losing their jobs because those employers are being pushed out by the heavy-handed policies of California. These policies codify, or these laws codify policies that attract businesses, attract job creators, and will ensure that Texans are going to have plentiful job opportunities to earn a great paycheck for decades to come.
I would argue that your agenda, and Governor Patrick said the speaker's agenda as well, are going to make it the next 20 days. We took out the LB Forum, TAC, the nuclear renaissance.
Good question. I'll come back to it in a second. I want to first take any other questions people may have on topic. You're off topic as usual, but it's fine.
Governor Dexit was brought up there. Still, over 2/3 of the Fortune 500 companies are incorporated in Delaware. What would your message be to them on a day like that?
So we've seen Delaware actually respond to Texas. And what we observe is Delaware is grasping at straws, and that they are a system of the past, whereas Texas has created the system of the future. What's happened in Delaware is a departure from the business judgment rule. What's happened in Delaware is the judges now are basically rewriting and reinterpreting what the business judgment rule is supposed to be in Delaware. What we have in Texas, both from the laws that are signed as well as the courts that we've established, is the greatest sense of stability and predictability in business of any state in the United States of America.
Governor, the House just passed a business support bill, but it expanded a little bit.
Right.
To the Senate. Do you like the way that looks now, when we sign it as is?
Yes. I mean, so it can, obviously can still be improved upon, but here's the reality. If I understand it correctly, it expands the jurisdiction, expands the courts, and so it continues to build upon what we were able to put into effect last session.
Last question.
Well, we could take a few more. Because I got to come back to him. Hold on a second. I told you I'd come back to you. I didn't say when. Didn't say it would be today or some other day, but
Mr. Speaker, a lot of gavels have died under your watch.
is it?
Serious question. The Senate has pitched an idea in regards to school finance. Lieutenant Governor threw an idea out. Have you read it? Do you like it? And are we going to get it to that man? No.
So I'm very excited about it. $8 billion of funding. And if you look at the key components of when it left the House, special education funding, teacher pay, looking at full-day funding for pre-K, looking at a lot of the different component parts. What I understand, most of those are in that bill. Obviously, like any school finance bill, you've got to see the runs, but we are very optimistic and very excited where we're at.
Rudy, I want to give credit to Brad Buckley and Brandon Creighton. I really think we've been through the bill in great detail. I really think it's a masterpiece of school finance. It's prioritizing teachers. They're going to be paid more money than they've ever been paid before in Texas. It prioritizes kids' special needs and school safety. Those two guys working in collaboration with their staffs and with senators and other House members and leadership. This is a great bill. $8 billion. $8 billion. And it's, well, I'm sure we'll be back here pretty soon.
I'd like to add one more thing on that. That number is really important. That will be the largest school finance bill in the history of Texas.
Right, and that's to double down, the largest school finance bill, providing more funding than ever before, and this is the best thing we can do for the most important part of education, and that is providing our teachers with the pay raise they need and deserve. Now, I promised you the first off-topic question, and somehow Rudy got around that.
I was teeing him up.
No, basically, there are so many priorities. There's still outstanding, the nuclear renaissance, DAC from the Lieutenant Governor, the mail reform for you. How confident are all of you that it can get done in the next 3 years?
So we had breakfast again this morning, as we often do every Wednesday. We talked about all those things, and without revealing everything that we said, the reality is, speaking for myself and the others here, we feel very good about getting all these big, important pieces of legislation across the finish line.
If I can follow up on the public school financing question, as amended, the substitute in the Senate cuts down on the basic student allotment from $395, which is what the House passed, to $55. I've heard a lot of people already making noise about that, but it sounds like you are okay with such a cut. I'd love to hear that elaborated on.
So what I'm going to go back to, if you look at what we talked about from the beginning of session and talked about the component parts of the bill, teacher pay, special education funding, which is so important, has been kind of the cornerstone of that. Funding for full-day pre-K, small and mid-size adjustment, CTE funding, school safety. You look at the things that we have championed all throughout session, and that's what we're looking at. Looking at just one number and not what the entire bill does, I don't think is what we need to be doing. We need to look at actually how the bill gets to the different components we need to get to. And so again, largest amount of school finance in history that's actually classroom dollars. You know, this is real money that's going to get to public education that's in need of it. And you look at the things that it does, it's the things that we identified were very important.
All right, thank y'all very much.
Through the SEC works as planned, we should put our first trades up in the second week of February next year, which is a pretty good date. I think it might be an important anniversary as well.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.